Gary Speed's wife has spoken of the tragic moment she found her former footballer husband hanged in their garage in scenes that turned her home into a horror film. Louise Speed has opened up about her frantic attempts to save her husband as she cut him down while screaming for help in November 2011. Mr. Speed took his own life at just 42 hours after appearing on BBC TV show Football Focus. One of Speed's sons, Ed, was also in the Cheshire home and witnessed a horrifying scene. The ex-Wales manager's life is being honoured in a tell-all book as his widow attempts to raise money for mental health charities in his name. She told the Mirror, "The morning it all happened will never leave me. It was horrific. The evening before, we had been out locally to a friend's house. It was the first night we allowed our boys to stay at home with their friends while Gary and I went out. We felt they had got to that age where they could be left up the next morning back at our home, turned into a horror film. I was the one who found him, the one who cut him down. I got Ed up and unfortunately he saw what his dad had done. I made the call to the emergency services. I screamed at the paramedics to resuscitate him. But I knew he was gone. I was screaming in hope and desperation. I was standing in the garage where he had hung himself, shaking. I'd become like a little child, not knowing what to do. I then called my mum and dad, and then Gary's mum and dad. I said it as it was, and it was horrible hearing their screams of anguish on the other end of the phone. I remember lying on the couch most of the day as people were coming and going. No one really knew what to say or do. Share this article. Share 11 shares. Mr. and Mrs. Speed met age just 13 when Gary arrived at his wife's birthday party despite never having been invited. The pair both attended Hawarden High School, where most girls were attracted to Gary, but not his future wife. Mr. Speed went on to represent his country 84 times before going on to manage the national side. She said to the Mirror, "He turned up at my 13th birthday party, and I wondered what he was doing there because he hadn't been invited. It was a house party for my friends. It was supposed to be fancy dress, not that the boys bothered. Obviously Gary thought he could come along with the lads who had received invites. During the party was the first time I had really spoken to him, and I was attracted to his humor. He made me laugh. Even at that age he was talking about what he wanted to do in the future, that he didn't want to bring children up in certain areas. He would love to have a house where he could fish, with a river nearby, things like that. Where we ended up living in our house in Chester, it did have a lake at the back where he could fish. He already had his dream set, even at that young age. Speed, who played for Leeds, Bolton, Everton, and Sheffield, as well as Wales, was appointed Sheffield manager but left the club after a few months in December 2010 to manage the Wales national team, remaining in this role until his death 11 months later. Gary Speed, Unspoken, The Family's Untold Story, by John Richardson and published by Sport Media, is on sale from September 20. It is currently being serialized by The Mirror. If you need to speak to someone, you can call the Samaritans 24/7 on 116 123.